Hi guys, I'm here with Tayyaba today. My name is Mahnoor, and we're going to be talking about writing and maybe some self expression, internet content, and so on. Let's begin. So, Tayyaba, what do you like the most about writing?
It feels good to doodle in a classroom. Just I'm talking about the physical act of writing. It's a nice thing to do. It's like writing, drawing, anything. When you do it with a physical pen, it's very enjoyable. Just to use a pen and have, you can just make a gesture in the air and there is no mark left.
So,
But when
even
you
the
add,
process is a bit meditative.
yeah,
It's
it's meditative. That's probably where it starts.
And so the creative expression and the process of writing in itself becomes art for you.
I
Like
feel like
drawing.
big words are being thrown around art and writing. I feel like just like as a kid, like if I start with like when I was a kid, uh, I have written those things जो तख्ती नहीं होती है.
Yeah. हाँ,
Do you have any experience बचपन में writing
हाँ,
पे?
उर्दू
Oh,
writing.
my writing sucked also so bad. My parents used till I was like in intermediate. My parents used to visit my teacher and be like, "इसको मार किसकी writing से?" I literally not exaggerating
Yeah.
at all, verbatim.
Yeah.
So I feel like uh, I miss writing, वैसे honestly, with a pen. It's for me. It starts with because it's so therapeutic and meditative. What about you?
I think I like writing because I get to express my feelings and emotions. And at times I feel like I get to say things or I get to put things out there that people may not really understand. And maybe when you're writing it out and you're putting it out there, you get an audience that kind of understands where you're coming from. That's one aspect of it. But then also creating a brand new world and tapping into these ways of existing which maybe are not accessible when you're living on a daily basis. And with writing or writing a poem, you kind of get to create a world of your own and you get to escape your reality for some time. So I think escapism is one thing, which I think is also very evident in the brain rot kind of content
Yeah.
that we see online. So, yeah.
I have a very personal question as a follow up.
Okay.
Like, who hurt you?
A lot of people.
What are you escaping?
A lot of people. My entire life. But yeah. With that, we're gonna cut out.
Like, I'm escaping something. But you're also building something.
Yeah, every time you escape something, you're also building something. Because I think not writing or not expressing yourself is where you become very static in life. And that status is exactly what depression could be. So when you're feeling something, you're feeling something, and then when you're running away from it and you're creating something new, you're then looking forward to a brand new thing.
I saw reels where it said that depression is the antonym of creation.
Yeah.
So like as if you're creating anything,
Yeah.
even if it's bad,
Yeah.
it's you are like not sinking
Yeah,
further
because
inside.
anytime I am writing and I stop, or if I'm not able to express myself very well, or if I'm not putting out a poem, there for people, I start to feel like I'm dying inside. I literally start to feel like I'm going to lose my mind. And that's why I think I see writing itself as living, or the process of being alive. for me.
That's beautiful and profound.
So,
You, now I understand why you opened the conversation with why do you love writing? Because like you clearly do love writing.
for me, yeah, for me, writing itself is everything.
It breathes through your pen.
It breathes through my pen.
Yeah.
I was telling somebody at work that like if I'm not writing, I start losing track of anything that's happening around me. So my 9 to 5 starts to fall apart. It starts to wither away if I'm not making that poem that I'm thinking of in my head, and it keeps going on and it takes up so much of my headspace that I cannot focus on anything unless I have the poem down there on the page. So that's why I think the writing process is very sacred to me. And that's why I had the poets program.
This reminds me of is like writing a divine,
Yeah, it's like
you
a
know, like
divine revelation.
a airy thing that like dawns upon you.
Yeah.
Like कोई कीड़ा होता है which makes you have to write. You know,
Yeah.
like there's something that like if you do not, you will become insane.
Finicky
You
and
or
then
that is like a writer has to be. There must be some disorder for you to start writing. I think there are, people have said things along those lines. So yeah.
And how writing, do you remember like romantic poets and how writing is like this beguiling thing, and until you've had the idea down there, you can't really rest. So I think that's
How would you like write, talking about writing the process and then the product, because you talked about how you also believe that when you write you think of who else can relate to this, like where is your audience who also would like to live in the world you're creating. So when we talk about the product of writing, your thoughts on that, because like today we look at all content text. How do you define text? Because like as we studying literature, we are told that, oh, anything can be a text.
Yeah.
A meme can be a text, a person can be a text, your own
everything is
this
text.
wall can be a text. But then Rupi Kaur can write poetry and that's text, like that's actually published text. People actually
People are writing, like finding literary gaps there
Yeah.
and working
like
on it.
Instagram poets and shit post writers. So like how do you view your own writing when you put it out there, the product?
I wish I held my own writing in good esteem, but I don't. Yeah.
I don't think so. I think the way you view the process and you find it so sacred, that attests to the fact you take your writing seriously. It's just like,
I do, but then I also like, I think, and you understand that when you are a literature student and you have all of this theory and framework with you, and you know critical analysis, then you start applying all of that to what you're writing, and you're like, I'm not good enough because this is not what Coleridge would write, this is not what Emily Dickinson would write. So like if I am doing this, and just because some people think it's good enough does not mean I have any literary merit to what I'm writing. So I think that comparison in my head is like always there, and that's what kind of also holds me back from writing more actively. Um, but then we have people like Rupi Kaur, and like she's an entire genre in herself.
no hate. Like,
Yeah,
just
no
like,
hate, no hate.
just some judgment though. No hate.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Get that
think
bag.
I think it's very soothing for people who are so used to therapeutic language to read work that is fast literature. But I don't think it's adding any value to people's lives. That's what I think. Like it's not adding literary value. What do you think?
Because I was at the Faz Festival last weekend, and I was there with my colleagues. And before we went to the festival, we had a mushaira at our on campus, right, where we work. So I noticed how they were like, oh, ye hai na shairi. Like this is good poetry. This is like highbrow literature.
Yeah.
And I saw that a lot, like not to like hate or anyone, but like just a lot of fast shairi, for example. Adil Hashmi was reading it, someone was translating it. A lot of it was not really resonating with the crowd. But a lot of really bad verses that were said at the mushaira, literally super awami kisam ki language mein. Kids resonated it with way more.
Yeah, but then you remember Wordsworth, talking about how your language needs to be very it needs to resonate with the ordinary people.
Yeah, it should be rustic.
It should be
and
rustic. So
commonplace.
then how do we define like these kind of verses
Yeah.
that are not like very highbrow
Mhm.
in comparison to literature, which is very easier to understand for your ordinary audience? Or
Like
people
also
who don't
like
have literary
who is your
backgrounds.
target audience?
Yeah.
Also, like I think like reminds me of a different quote by Atwood. She talks about male gaze, but she's like, oh, there's a man inside your head.
Yeah.
So it's like I feel like as a writer, if you're writing for an audience, what's the audience in your head? Because like, do you want the masses to relate to you, or do you want a niche group of people who have certain kind of experiences in their lives to relate to you, so class hai meri. Like you won't get, so you can
Like
tell the
if-
rest of the people, oh, you won't get it.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you approach that? Like, with respect to shitpost content, bad poetry, and then highbrow literature.
I think for myself, I've created that outline for myself. Like in poetry, I'm going to hold this certain standard, but then I'm on Twitter and I'm shit posting. And then I go on Medium and I'm like, I'm going to write prose that's like just beautiful and maybe has some kind of revelation that can be shared, like some kind of philosophical depth to it. So that's how I create outline or boundaries for myself. But then I'm not sure like how other people define it, because if you look at a lot of online people or personas or personalities like Dakota Johnson, I don't know if you're aware of her. She's a YouTuber.
I know. All I know about Dakota Johnson is not from.
Lady Dakota.
Oh.
Lady Dakota, who's like a YouTuber,
Mm-hmm.
and she is known for like consuming highbrow literature, but the kind of content she's posting is very, it's just content. It's not necessary, it doesn't have a poetic form, traditional poetic form.
Is she
But
doing
then-
like trendy TikTok content, like
yeah. But then some of it turns out to be very
peeling
good.
oranges for her partner and
Yes.
things like that?
And I do like some of these writers. If I look at, there is this woman that I kind of always gatekeep, and I'm still going to gatekeep. Hi, people. I am gatekeeping this person I really love. She does like pictures with one lines. That's her entirety of literature, or the writing style as one.
But gender sauce, and there are a lot of pages like that who do things like that. They're like very. It reminds me of Ezra Pound.
So they take one
Writing really like just one image captured in a few words.
And I do kind of sometimes very much enjoy their ideas, because they take the crux of something and they put it in such brief ways, which are at times very beautifully well put. And but then at the same time, I know it's not poetry.
It also at least is catering to the ADHD, generational ADHD that we are experiencing post COVID also now.
And also, this is like
The tidbits of content.
And what do you think about literature online versus literature which is, like in traditional form, in a book form?
Good question. Because like I have been the Tumblr user who used to romanticize the smell of new books.
Also, you're a
things like
teacher
that.
and you're like
Also a literature student. And also I have really bad eyes. So like looking at screens hurt me physically. So like also wo ableism wala bhi. Oh, Kindle and like ebooks are ableist. They are not good for your eyes. I would like to.
you
also-
prefer paperback.
I believe कि paper. And then I have also suffered studying. Growing up, when I used to type on a laptop, I got a sprain in my wrist. And then when I used to study a lot, I used to have back pain. Like just saying. So I view all of literature as unnatural. Like because I personally prefer oral tradition. Like if you ask me personally, I believe like you go back and it's all lore and like Homer's Odyssey. All of this was oral tradition. Like I believe in oral tradition. And then you look at multimedia generation of content. So there is text like TikToks or like an image or whatever, digital content,
Yeah.
and there is audio. I prefer audio over over written and typed content.
Yeah, I don't like audio. Like, do you like audiobooks?
I love audiobooks. I sleep to an
I,
audiobook every
I
night.
think they're not real books.
Hmm.
Because you're not engaging, you're not reading it on your own. So for some reason I feel like it's, in a way, you're deceiving yourself into.
I love that. I recently learned there are a lot of people who do not have the ability to to visualize things they're reading. It's a condition, and people, or like a friend was talking about how on a wedding her cousins kept playing songs which were extremely graphic and visual, and but the cousin, everyone was like, what are you doing? And they're like, I'm just vibing to the music.
Yeah.
But everyone else could, because when we listen to lyrics vagara, we think of the images. But there is a condition where people do not, they just register sounds and do not visualize things, and also fiction reading and everything.
Apparently, that's how most people's brains work, and I learned that if you are visualizing something, is where you are unique and you can kind of.
So that's the neurotypicalness, when you visualize or when you don't visualize?
When you don't visualize is when you're neurotypical, and when you do is when you're neurodivergent, because your imagination can bring things to life.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I can visualize when I'm listening to audiobooks. So like,
Okay.
I don't know what is the conclusion on audiobooks. So you think they are not real literature, audiobooks?
I just think it's not a real experience of literature. That's not how literature is meant to be experienced. I feel like literature is supposed to kind of engage
be
all
held.
of your
Physically
held,
held.
yes, to be held and to be experienced and with all your senses.
You're like, my poems need, their love language is physical touch.
Although none of, at least I think I only have 5 poems that were featured recently that are in a book, and most of my poems are online in a digital platform. But one day I hope
You
some
want
people
someone to hold
my
your poems. Give them a hug.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's when my literature will find.
I want to hear your poems like being recited dramatically.
Yeah.
Like this is my love language towards like my relationship with
That's very
text.
interesting, because a lot of my poems are written from this perspective of somebody reading them out loud. And I do that exercise on many of my poems where I recite them out loud, because for me they're also like a song. So I do have this quality of like a sing-songy quality that I would like somebody to start reading them out loud. And I've been kind of experimenting with it. And maybe I'll have something put out there soon, which is me reading my poems.
So that won't be real literature because that's just content.
Yeah, that's content. That's not a poem.
That's not a poem.
Yeah, it's a TikTok at best. It's a reel.
I am learning a lot of poetry on Instagram Reels aajkal. Like I'm posting them too on my stories. It's like I feel like also the other aspect of my relationship with written word and oral tradition is the fact I grew up not watching a lot of or not listening to a lot of the vocabulary I was learning. So a lot of the vocabulary I experienced first, I was exposed to.
Yeah.
I had to vocalize it myself, and I mispronounced a lot. a lot of the word I remember in my bachelor's class. So I recently learned about feminism. And I did not hear the word feminism, I read it in a book. So this is my beef with written word also. So I read the word feminism and I was like, oh, I'm a feminist now. But I did not know how to say the word feminist. I read it and I thought this is derived from the word female. So guess what did I call the word feminism?
Feminist.
Feminism. I was like, this is feminist. I was like, I'm a feminist. I literally stood up in my class. मेरी mass comm की class थी.
Okay.
It was my minor subject. And I stood up in my class, and it's like a lot of students, like other majors are also there. And I said, this is so anti-feminist or something like that.
That's cute.
No, but like someone corrected me later, not that day, some other day. And I realized, and then I remembered, oh my God, I have said that word so proudly, so publicly. And I was like, if I had heard that word now, I would like it's like that's my trauma with written word because
you
like
also have to have patience with the learning process now. It's not like you're going to hear every word and just know it. Like, even people who are like very good writers or readers, they are always learning new vocabulary. And you can't just know a word off the go. So it's okay. I feel like you just need to give yourself that grace of like
no, but
learning.
I just like feel like also because do you prefer voice notes or texts or calls?
None of them. Please don't contact me. Merry Christmas, please don't call. But I really you put me on
You have to pick an option. This is a would you rather game. You have to pick
I'd
text,
rather have a text.
text or a voice note.
a text.
I prefer voice notes.
I like sending voice notes. They're easier, quicker, but only on my like happier days because I have a very depressing disposition and I can't do that all the time. So I prefer texts.
I just like I believe ke so much is lost in written word. You cannot like tell what the like लहजा ही नहीं पता चलता. It's like
But that's not a problem. I think I kind of care about.
I mean, like text written word is so one dimensional is how I view it now.
But then I also think that comes from Reddit communities that kind of need to define tonality for everything. Serious and
Derogatory, non-derogatory, affectionate.
Yeah. But then I feel like if I am texting you, it means there is a necessary boundary here for some reason. And I don't feel like expressing more than this. Which is fine. Like in a voice note, you can have that.
Like in a more formal situation, I get it. Like texts are more formal. You don't need to give emotive undertones to a formal text. I'm talking more like when you're trying to communicate your emotions.
Yeah. I guess that's quicker. Or
But like
easier.
poetry is emotive, right? It's not you don't want to set a boundary with your
I
readers.
think poetry is the only time where I'm comfortable expressing an emotion, where I don't feel like, oh, now I have to hide this emotion. Where once I'm writing a poem, I'm like, whatever this emotion is, it's taking the central role. It gets to do whatever it wants. I'm not stopping it. I take up different personas. I experiment with the writing styles. I experiment with the personas, whatever boundaries I'm creating there. But I do not hold the emotion back in any way, which kind of is where intensity comes from. But in my personal life, my emotions are always hidden. I'm always like, oh, wait, I've expressed this. Oh, no, I have to take it back somehow. Like, if I was expressive in some way, then I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
That brings me to another interesting observation, or like just general people often talk about how
Yeah.
like the relationship of an artist with solitude or like with walls and then opening a window into your soul through your art is an expression. So like and also the logocentrism of written texts
Yeah.
and a writer is an artist who has to use the written text, for example, as a medium to express themselves. But then there are other art forms which today are just all put under the same, category content.
Yeah.
Content or text or whatever you want
Everything
to
is
call it.
content.
So I believe then it's just about like how much do you think you need to gatekeeping a relationship with expression? How like do you believe you need to gatekeep your emotions
Yeah.
for the rest of the day so you can actually express them in your poetry?
I was thinking about it. I was literally thinking about it this morning where I was like, I do this thing where I deliberately gatekeep myself. So my emotions are not spilling over around other people and I get to keep them so I can write something because that's where they're going to make sense. And I do that with a lot of my faculties. I noticed like sometimes I would say my best lines just for a friend. And then I'd go home and I'd be like, wait, I'm out of like what was that line or what did I just I kind of lost that track. So I kind of do gatekeep my right thought processes.
This
Because-
reminds me how I let you finish and then I give you a Fleabag reference.
Okay, go ahead with that.
Then yeah, I want you to finish that thought.
Yeah, so I do gatekeep my own emotions because I think they need to when I'm writing something, I need them there. And also the fact the more you are expressive, the more other people take that emotion from you because a poet is not like most people. I feel very sensitive and very vulnerable compared to most other people. And I feel like it's very easy for me to get hurt and in that hurt stop writing. And so that's why I need to gatekeep myself so that sensitivity or vulnerability is protected and I can have it down on a in a written word and not have it abused and exploited in ways that are just not okay.
This reminds me of Fleabag when she keep leaving the boyfriend shuru mein.
Yeah.
And then the guy keeps coming back,
First episode.
leaving a dinosaur, I think. And then he says something very profound. I don't remember what he said. And she's like, oh, this is so good, you should write this down for your songs or something. And then even though they are having a very heated fight,
Yeah.
and he's like, then he just brings his notebook and writes it down. This just reminds me of
I
that.
don't remember that.
Maybe.
Maybe I also didn't pay attention to that. But it's been a while now. It's been a while since I saw Fleabag. But yeah. I also have a question for you. And personally, I hate what people are doing right now to Sylvia Plath and Kafka.
Yeah.
And how they're just using
They have
them.
opened the gates.
And they're using them as kind of like relatable people when I think their emotions were very intense and they were going through a lot.
These people don't get them.
Yeah. What do you think about it? Like, do you think it's okay
To commodify a classic.
basically
Like make t-shirts out of Kafka and make Halloween costumes out of Sylvia Plath. So
yeah.
I do. I believe. I believe. I have been very possessive of the artist I was very fond of. I remember when 21 Pilots got super mainstream after
Yeah.
Heathens. And I was so mad. Every person, the F boys on Snapchat were playing them and posting their driving ki videos. I was like, that's my culture. You're appropriating my culture. But I have made my peace with it now. I believe in death of the author. In death of the author, they need to die. They need to stay dead, and like no one are their heirs. No one is like, oh, like Kafka belongs to me. The other, you don't relate to Kafka the way I relate to Kafka. That could be true.
Yeah, but it's also not just about relatability. It's about like some things are sacred.
Also, people have like mutilated them. They have actually people do not like, people don't even know the original text, and they just know this idea of someone just waking up as a cockroach, and now that's Kafka, that's it. Like, I feel like a bug and I'm disgusting. So this is so Kafkaesque of me to not take a shower for a
Yes.
week.
Also, like posting content from their letters that were like, for instance, Kafka's letter to his father is such an intense emotion, and like I think it's one of those literary pieces that kind of made me, it upset me in so many ways when I read it the first time. And seeing that just being used as relatable quotes is like, what are you even talking about? Because you are living your best life, you have so much access, and so many people who like I just think they're desecrating something very important and cool.
You know how I personally view this? The same way. Sorry. um, no disrespect to you. I believe this is the same approach. Like when you want to gatekeep something and when you want to make a holy cow of something, it's the same way you're like, oh, I don't know, I'm too scared to say this also. But this is the same way certain religious people treat religion. You know, like how can you put
I was going to
say my name, say my savior's name that way, things like that. How can I have a perfect example for this. How can you wear clothes with Arabic written on it? That's sacred. Some things are sacred.
some things are sacred.
Do you
though.
see that? Do you see that?
I do see that. I do
So,
see
like,
how I follow literature like a cult, and for me,
Yeah.
it's like, don't touch it.
Yeah.
Just don't touch it.
So, like, I believe in, like, personally, over the years, I have come to believe in, I don't know, I don't have the word for it. It's like
You really think people
taking things off the pedestal.
Yes.
That's what I was
Which
looking
I
for.
also
I
am
bel
here.
I used to be a fangirl. I used to run fan accounts,
I
fandom
think-
accounts. I am not a fangirl of, I do not strongly adhere to any culture personally.
That's not, I think, what's my trouble with it is stripping something off of its content or context. So,
Decontextualizing it.
decontextualizing something, taking away the context from around it, and then making something out of it which makes no sense anymore. I think that's what I kind of find to be very absurd with things right now, or content in itself as well. People create content, but what's the context for it? And I think a lot of young people who are studying literature kind of do not have that context. Is it important? Maybe not. Maybe it means nothing to have that context. And once again, I'm treating it like a cult literature or cult pieces. But yeah, I think context is where I kind of become.
Yeah. Oh, as a teacher here also, I understand the how infuriating it gets when, you want to make. It reminds me of abridged versions of literature too.
Yeah.
Growing up, we've read the abridged versions. For Gulliver's Travel, you read the abridged version. It's so cute, but then you grow up and you read the entire thing, and you're like,
Yeah.
you don't want to be human anymore. So I believe I understand how frustrating that is as a teacher of literature, but and then I think sorry, then I think that as long as we have some people now, the carrying the burden of contextualizing everything, and some cult followers,
We're good.
we are good. We are in good hands, and like, I hope some people treat all of this sacredly. As long as that's happening, the rest of us can just, enjoy a T-shirt
Enjoy
with a
turning
cock.
everything
Yeah,
into
into a
content.
commodity, into content, into an aesthetic. Oh, we didn't even get to that. We didn't even talk about aesthetics and cores and yeah.
You'll have to call us for a second episode to talk about aesthetics.
Sure, why
But-
not?
But yeah, I think this was amazing. I love
Yeah.
talking to you, and I think love talking about
Always.
this
Mhm.
entire content versus real poetry
Mhm.
kind of a thing, and catch up with you.
Yeah.
Loved it. Bye bye.